Welcome to What the Health? Where anything health is fair game as we tackle the trends and bust the myths about health and wellness. Here are your hosts, Dr. Dan and Angela Toro.
And welcome to another episode of What the Health. I am Dr. Dan here with my co-host,
Angela. Welcome back, everyone. As you guys know, we're here for informational purposes only, in no way offering individualized medical advice. Always talk to your trusted healthcare provider before making changes to your lifestyle. So with that being said,
all right, today we're talking about...
we are talking about women's fitness. So we're heading into, I guess, May is Women's Health Month.
Yes.
I can't keep track of all the
I know,
all the things.
It changes every year, right? I feel like, too.
So they tell me, I'm like, okay.
They keep adding more, right? Yeah. It's like every year something gets added to a month or a day.
So I'm like, I don't know. For women, I feel like every month is Women's Health Month. But
well, I had to chuckle when you said we're talking about women's fitness because I was like, oh, because I have so much experience.
Exactly. You are definitely an expert now. No, but yeah, just, touching base on some of the myths for, what women think or are afraid or just some common myths or misconceptions. And then really why, we should be focusing, everybody, but especially women, why it's so important to focus your fitness endeavors in certain directions. Because again, it's, I definitely have noticed a shift, which is good. I'm seeing a lot more women at the gym lifting and doing different things. I laugh because probably 10 years ago when you were in the gym, it was like the cardio equipment, it was all the women. And then the weights was all men. Yep. And it's definitely starting to see a shift now.
Mixture,
yes. Yeah. And so it's good that people are realizing, oh, okay, I need both.
Yeah, it's both and not either or.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions is that, a lot of the times women think, and again, why, I don't know why it's women, but, women, we have this pressure in society to, be a certain size or, that constant, lose weight. Yeah. And cardio was always the thing that was kind of shoved as far as, get out and run and, run and bike and, do all of this, intense cardio to lose weight.
Was about how many calories you could burn, right? Because again, they went to the simple equation, which it does, have some validity. Calories in equal calories, out.
Yeah.
And if your calories out equal or is greater than your calories in, then you're going to lose weight.
Exactly.
Right? So that's the simple equation. And at the end of the day, that is in fact how it works to an extent.
Yeah, and again, you do burn a lot of calories. If you're out doing
running,
long. Yeah, I went out and did a 30-mile bike ride the other day. I burned 1,700 calories.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's but the thing is, well, that one I probably was using a lot of muscle too because it was very hilly. But if you're thinking about cardio, the calories that you're burning during that activity.
Yeah.
Versus when you're doing things that are activating the muscles. So the weightlifting or even the high intensity interval trainings where you're doing more explosive movements, you're getting that muscle involvement. Muscle is much more metabolically active. So that is actually, you may not burn as many calories during the actual exercise time, but overall you're going to end up burning more because that muscle is going to continue to use energy as it recovers during that recovery process. So, and that's a big thing that in general, we've seen a shift towards, people realizing that, resistance training is really, really important for weight loss and actually maintenance of weight loss. That's the big thing too, is, once anyone who's ever struggled with their weight or had their weight fluctuate knows that once you lose weight, it just feels so much harder to keep that weight off. And if you do gain it back, it's that much harder to lose it the second time. And it just becomes your body kind of going into that, that kind of survival mode where it's like, no, stop. Stop taking these storage sources from me. Yeah. So the muscle actually helps a lot more with maintaining of that weight loss than the hours and hours of cardio where, that's very beneficial for the heart, the lungs, and all of that. But the muscle, the metabolically active muscle is so important, really with that kind of long-term weight maintenance, weight loss, and maintenance of weight loss. So that's one of the big misconceptions that, again, I'm definitely noticing a shift, but there was definitely a time there where it just seemed like women were like, oh, well, if I want to lose weight, I got to go run. That was, that was where it always seemed to, the mindset always seemed to go to.
Which, again, nothing against running, but if you are overweight and trying to run, that's a significant amount of pressure on your joints. Absolutely. So coming from it, from a chiropractic perspective, if you are out of alignment and overweight and trying to do something like running, which is very high impact, you talk about the significant amount of stress on the lower back, the SI joints, the hips, the knees, the ankles, the bones in the feet, like all of that, has this chain, this connection, from where you strike the ground with your foot all the way up through the body and all the way up through the spine. So, you could have shoulder pain from running because of, some sort of, something out in the chain, from the foot all the way up the leg through the body to the head. So, it's important to understand that, although running can be beneficial, it's not your best target. And just to reiterate what you said, when your muscle is metabolically active, when it is being utilized, right? Mm-hmm. So our muscle, whereas a lot of tissue, if you have like a ligament or a tendon that tears and you have like, some inflammation, you have like a, mild sprain or something at the ligament level, you had a tear that you could talk about that you've struggled with for years. When a ligament tears, it's really, really hard for the body to recover that injury. It is doable, but it's very, very difficult. Muscle is literally designed to, when you are working out to the point of fatigue, okay, it is designed to have these small micro tears in it. And that's actually, the old saying, decades ago used to be like, oh, I've got that, muscle soreness because I'm building up that lactic acid. But I even talked about, 20 years ago and, maybe 15 years ago in my undergrad program, we talked about it's not necessarily the lactic acid that's causing the pain. It's the micro tears in the muscle that's actually causing the pain, because what's happening is you're breaking down those muscle fibers, which they're designed to do. And then those proteins you're going to get a higher density of protein that builds back after it breaks down. And so that process of breaking down the muscle and then building back new proteins, that is what takes a lot of energy for the body to be able to recover that muscle. And so that is what, you might be burning calories during your workout because you're getting your heart rate up and you're sweating a little bit, but it's the recovery of the breaking down of that muscle and building it back up that the body requires a lot of energy. So whether it gets that energy from, what you currently have in its glycogen stores, or if you're working out in a fasted state, then it's grabbing it from the liver, or, you're in, such a good, ketogenic breakdown where you're actually, burning fat, it's good. The body's going to get that energy from somewhere to recover that muscle. And so whether it's getting it from your sugar stores or your fat stores, it's going to find that energy and utilize it to recover and build back the muscle. So I think that's very, very important for people to understand, especially women, because if you want to continue to burn calories long after your workout, a day or two later, then resistance training is an absolute must. And resistance training to the point of you're actually a little bit sore the next couple of days, right? And that's why when people come in and, they talk to me about like, oh, I'm like sore, they point, they get all their aches and pains, right? And it's like, okay, well, talk to me about what you were doing. It's like, well, this time of year, like, well, I was out pulling weeds in my garden for 4 hours. And it's like, okay, well, if I was doing that, I'd be sore too. Like, a little bit of muscle soreness is not a bad thing. In fact, people who are well versed in it, we crave it, right? We love it. We love that little bit of like, oh man, it's hard to like sit down on the toilet or something and get back up. Or
we had a whole podcast on that where it was like the earned soreness versus an actual injury or something.
Yeah. So with that understanding of breaking down the muscle and building it back up, why don't you talk about, one of the misconceptions, especially for women, is, oh, I don't want to bulk up, because I don't, because you've got, you look at the bodybuilding men and, men in the gym who are just, maybe
or even the bodybuilding women now, because that's, good Lord.
Yeah, they're big, but they're still nowhere compared to, the male counterpart. But talk about, this idea that if I, lift weights, I'm going to bulk up.
Yeah.
So,
and that, again, that's just another common misconception that, again, comes from, especially now with social media and just all of this stuff all over the place. Really, that is for the average person that is lifting, 3 times a week, that you're not, especially women, you're just not going to bulk in that way. That is the result of a very specifically designed type of exercise regimen that is extreme, loading and progression, coupled with an extreme diet. And I'm talking,
excess of calories.
And it's funny because if you've ever seen a bodybuilder, like not during competition training, they look awful. No offense if you're a bodybuilder, but it is like they might look, a physique of a certain way, but as far as I say, I would put an MMA fighter against a bodybuilder any day, and I would take that easily. Take the MMA fighter, who some of those guys don't look all that, all that jacked, but it's the look of the muscle doesn't necessarily equate with the strength,
health or health in general,
or the health.
We always talk about,
and that, yes, you are going to build muscle, but how much of that muscle is going to depend on your body type for women. Again, if I lift regularly, I do start to have more defined muscle, but it's still in no way like, it's not like her, it's just
not Hulk.
Yeah, it's not Hulk. And for me, it's like, I like it. I don't get like, that's how, like, I don't get thin, I get toned. And that's just what works for my body. And, but if you're somebody who has that real kind of thin, naturally thin frame, especially as a woman, like, you're not going to, bulk out by lifting some weights. What you're going to do is you're going to build up the strength of those muscles, which is going to make, you think about it, if you're a runner, you need strong legs to run long distances. So, and yes, you're going to build those muscles by running, but by adding in some resistance training, you're going to also protect the joints and all of those things. Again, if you're a woman trying to lose weight and you're afraid that, I don't, muscle's heavier. Well, yes, that's true. But you also want to think about, if your goal is to lose weight, I'm guessing it's not really the number on the scale. It's more how you feel in your clothes, how you feel when you look in the mirror, how you feel when you see yourself in pictures, like all of these things. So by building up muscle, by getting more tone, one, like we just talked about, it's going to help burn fat, which is really what we say. When we say we want to lose weight, we want to lose fat. We don't necessarily, it's not, again, unless you're in some kind of weight class sport where you have to hit a certain number. Overall, the number on the scale is more of a guide than a hard and fast, rule. But yeah, really just, you're going to get toned. You might, feel stronger, but overall it's just going to help things. It'll help your skin look tighter and more toned. It'll help, overall it'll just kind of help you, feel better, feel stronger. But yeah, you're not going to get jacked like that by doing a basic resistance training. That is, especially the women that you see, they are following crazy regimens. They are definitely taking some kind of supplement, whether it's legal or not. Legal, but definitely taking crazy supplementations.
Very strict dieting.
Very strict diet.
Yeah, because they're literally biohacking their bodies into, getting to that optimal level of physique. It's just unattainable under a natural normal diet.
Yes.
And
I've seen some tiny women at the gym lift some very impressive weight, and you wouldn't, like, by looking at them, you wouldn't be like, oh wow, that's, she's jacked. It's, she's just strong. So
Well, again, you get into like strength has a lot more to do, a lot less to do with the size of the muscle as it does with the density of the muscle. So you can have a very, very dense muscle because when you actually if you actually, dissect the muscle and look at it under, a microscope and you're seeing all the tiny fibers that make it up. Because essentially you take a muscle and it's just made up of long strings of, fibers that are, these proteins, that make up the consistency of a muscle. So the more dense it is, in theory, the stronger the stronger you're going to be. So, women especially, the more you lift, you're going to probably build up more density of the muscle, not the actual hypertrophy or the size of the muscle. So, and that goes for men too. Like you mentioned, and you should reiterate that, coming to the realization of what your body type is very, very important. And a lot of times we figure that out when we're a young age and, middle school, high school, especially if we were trying to do some sports or something, you start to move or merge towards the sport that your body is kind of built for. Like you were never going to be a distance runner.
Oh God, no.
And I wasn't either. Like I ran, but I did one marathon in my life and I'm like, never again. No, I can't. But then we have some patients that come in and do these, distance trail running that, it's 20, 30, 50 miles. And it's like, and they love it. Like we'll hike that long.
I was thinking about that on my 30-mile bike ride. I'm like, oh my God, there's people riding this.
Yeah, exactly. But coming to that realization, and again, maybe you need to, work with a health professional if you don't really understand what your actual body type is, because that body type will have a big impact for, that number that you're going to hit on the scale. Like, what would, someone who's, maybe a woman who's, 5'6", or 5'5", and they want to be at, a 20 to 25% body fat percentage. What would that number actually look like, for that individual? And, and again, based on whether they're more muscle or, which what they call mesomorph versus ectomorph, that might be very, very different. Yeah. Your 20% body fat at your height is going to look very, very different weight-wise on a scale than someone who's more of an ectomorph. So. And we're back. Sorry for that quick pause there. Just technical difficulties.
Yes. Love technology.
Yes. Anyway, that would have been a great pause for like an ad.
I know, right? That's what I was thinking. I was like, brought to you by. So we're just talking about body types and how that really, trying to work with your body type more so than fight it. And again, if you naturally have the type of body composition that is more prone to putting on muscle, then yes, you will. But still, as a woman, you're not going to pack on the muscle in the same way. Again, if that's your goal, there are definitely ways to do it. But I'm talking about just the average person going to the gym, working their muscles, a couple times a week. You're not going to get quote unquote ripped. But you are going to, it will help get, again, toned, stronger, and just overall help with your overall health, wellness, and weight loss goals if that is part of your goal. But you also brought up you were talking about the muscle density and how exercising increases that muscle density. And the other thing that we're realizing now and more, which is important for everyone, but even more so for women, is not just the muscle density, but really it's the bone density that the resistance training is really helping with. Yeah. So we know that muscle and bone break down over time. Yep. Again, we are mortal beings. If no one's ever told you that, I hate to break it to you. Yeah. Despite
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler. Despite humans' best efforts to prolong life, we are mortal beings, and things do will break down over time. we know that resistance training is one of the best things to help with muscle atrophy, that the natural breakdown of muscle that happens over time.
Yeah. We always talk about the difference between accelerated aging and graceful aging.
Yes.
Like, yes, there is some natural, loss of muscle density and bone density over time. However, what is the natural and normal versus what is accelerated, due to disease and poor lifestyle choices?
Well, think about it. Like, we all know that, 60 or 70-year-old who is out there still, running marathons in the gym, doing all this, out hiking, having an active life versus, we can all picture the 60 or 70-year-old that struggles to, get in and out of their car, get out up a flight of steps, do their, daily activities. And, and I feel like at 60 or 70, you should still be very well able to do those things. And then talk about if you're already struggling with those things at 60 or 70, what's 80 going to look like? What's 90 is going to look like? I mean, our grandmother, it wasn't really until, probably mid 80s that she really, and then I'd say probably even just the last couple of years since she hit 90 that, really kind of showing her age.
Yeah.
But, I always, my memories of her were always just, the golfing and, always active, always up, always moving around, always getting stuff. And, that's what you want. You want to be able to do those things. And the resistance training is so important for that bone, preventing that bone breakdown, because that's one that, once it's gone, there's really not a whole lot you can do. I mean, because if you get to the point, I found this interesting article that was talking about the resistance training and how it's really good for building up the bone density. But the problem is if you wait until the point that your bones are so frail, like if you're in full on osteoporosis, trying to start a program like that can be dangerous.
Yeah.
We talked about, like if you're, significantly overweight and you try to start running, that's putting a lot of strain on your body. Well, it's the same thing. If your bones and muscles are incredibly frail, and then all of a sudden now you're trying to do a resistance program, it's not that it's impossible. There's always ways to do those things in modified ways, but that's what we were talking about. We always talk about the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. Next best time's today. So you really want to think about, it's like people our age that really want to be thinking about this. It's, starting this program now so that you can slow down that, get your muscles and bones as strong as possible in your 30s, 40s, 50s, so that especially for women, because again, we have the joys of our hormone cycle, not just the monthly cycle, but the life cycle. Post-menopause, that just takes a huge toll on our overall health, and the bones take a big hit from that hormone shift, which is why you see that big spike in osteopenia and osteoporosis in women post-menopause. Yep. And that's, the article that I was reading was really talking about the resistance training was the big thing that was really showing that it could help improve that bone density, not just the muscle, breakdown, but the bone density, which is really just huge. And it was specifically a resistance exercise program. They said walking, which used to be thought that, okay, we'll just get out and walk. They were finding that is not creating enough of the impact to help the bone density. So while it could be good for, again, heart health, it's not enough of the impact. Same with the swimming. Swimming's a great cardio. But it's not creating the impact on to help with the bones. So it's one of those. It's funny because we recommend that to people who have a lot of joint issues because you want, it's a low impact exercise that you can do. But again, if your goal is to, kind of give yourself the best case of long-term being able to move and function and prevent that muscle and bone breakdown, then you do need those impact exercises throughout your life to help be able to do that. Again, it's all about finding the way to do it that's safe for you and effective. Again, if you're already dealing with those things, you can't just, you don't want to just go jump into something, but that's why it's great if you can start those things now so that you don't get to the point that you're unable to do them and then modify as you go. But yeah, it was just really interesting that they were saying, yeah, the walking and the swimming and all the stuff that we've been recommending for the older generation. Again, not that it's bad, but it's not. Yeah. It's not creating that positive effect on the muscles and bones that we were hoping it was. So.
Yeah, and that's where it really comes down to a scientific law. There's a law called Wolff's Law, and basically any bone that's under tension in a specific direction will lay down more bone in that area. And that has been very, very well documented in the scientific literature. And one of the easiest ways to put a tension on a bone is to stress a muscle, because all muscles attach to bones through tendons. So as you stress the muscle, it pulls on the bone, and it literally then is going to stimulate the osteoblasts, which are bone cells, to lay down more bone, in that area of stress. So, hope is not lost. No. And, I get inspired when I see, I've seen a couple of the, internet phenoms of, one or two women that started bodybuilding or started like weightlifting, weight training, like not, in their 50s.
Yeah.
And it's like you see some of the pictures in their 50s and they actually look like they're 80. And then you fast forward, now they're in their 80s and they've been, weightlifting for 30 years. And now they look like they're in their, 60s, when they're actually in their 80s. And so, when we talk about reversing the effects of aging, like that's exactly what we're talking about. Like, no, I can't turn back the actual time, but you can biologically turn back your clock, because a lot of us are, on this accelerated aging process because of the poor lifestyle choices, or lack of movement, lack of proper exercise. So it is possible to reverse the effects of the aging process. And, as you start to do this on a regular basis, you could be a very different person a year, 5 years, a decade from now, if you start putting the proper systems in place, the proper programs in place to be able to, strengthen the muscles, strengthen the bones, and, really change the whole dynamic of your body. And so, whether you're in your, late 20s or 30s and starting to feel the effects of the aging process, whether you're in your 40s or 50s and already have suffered a chronic health condition, maybe you've been diagnosed with cancer, maybe you've been diagnosed with, some sort of heart disease or, blood sugar problem. It doesn't matter. Like, you have the ability to start to reverse those processes. All chronic disease it's chronic for a reason. It takes time to build up. But guess what? If the body went down that path in the first place, it has the ability to recover and reverse that process. But you need the proper systems in place. And that's what we do all the time, right? Yeah. To help people put the right systems and programs in place in their daily routines to make sure that they are, moving towards health, not towards more sickness and disease.
And if you're hearing the words resistance training or strength training and you're picturing, the barbell and the massive amounts of weights, it's like, it doesn't have to be that.
No, because gravity is free and so, it can work very much in your favor.
Resistance training, is really just anything where you're putting that force against your muscles. So standing and doing a body weight squat, doing a push up against the wall, anything where you're creating that, and again, there's been this shift now, I think for women, especially noticing like the high intensity interval training, the thing. So I love kickboxing. It's a highly cardio, highly aerobic, but it also has incredible resistance because every impact with hitting the bag, kicking the bag is creating that resistance through the muscles as well. So things like that. I love kettlebell workouts, working through a range of motion, and you're just adding that little bit of extra weight is creating that resistance. So there are so many ways to work the muscles that are not just going and lifting each muscle group individually. That absolutely counts. And that is a, great form of resistance training. But if you're somebody that is like, well, I have no idea, like you walk into a gym and you're like a deer in headlights and you just have no idea where to start. That's one of the things we're so excited to be able to now offer is that, we have our shift space that's going to be opening here. And that's really one of the things that I'm so excited about as a, certified personal trainer, being able to create programs that work for you, no matter what it is, wherever you're starting, whatever your goals are. And the population I really love working with are those types of people that, they're not the former athletes. They're not the, they're the average Joe who has maybe never really been much of a gym person and now is realizing like, oh, I need to I need to do something so that I can continue to feel better. And, just feel better in my day-to-day life. And that's, I like working with people that have a specific, maybe fitness goal, but really I love working with the people that are like, I just want to be able to, get through my day better. I want to be able to, enjoy my vacations, go to Italy and be able to walk on the cobblestone and not feel like I'm going to fall over.
Yeah. I want to be able to get on the floor with my grandchildren, for 20 minutes and then be able to get back up.
Exactly. Like that's, so like if any of that sounds like you, then, cause that's the other thing too, is I think people hear personal training and they're like, oh, you got to be like, like they're going to try to get you to be some crazy athlete. And no, it's personal. It's whatever we take where you are, we take where you want to be, and we figure out how to get you there. Yeah. And so that's, very excited to be able to be offering that in addition to all the other things that we do here to really help get you healthy and stay healthy for life, because that is ultimately what we are here for.
Yeah.
And so really just, women, we like everything in life, we have unique experiences. So ultimately, don't fear the strength training, don't fear, the weight room or the resistance. And it's overall going to help your overall health, weight loss goals. If that's your goal, you're not going to get super jacked just by doing a basic exercise regimen. And in the long run, it's going to be one of the best things you can do for your muscles, your bone, and just help again prevent
weight control,
absolutely.
Weight control and just getting to a point where you feel like you can move freely and without the aches and the pains and again, a little bit of muscle soreness, big difference between that and actual joint pain because something is breaking down. So
exactly. Yeah. So. But that was our focus for today, was our women's fitness, and we'll have a lot more information on women's health throughout the month of May in the office. And as always, any questions or comments, if anything resonated with you, please feel free to reach out to us. TuroFamilyChiropractic.com, Turo, Turo. And it's another episode of What the Health.
Yeah, we'll see you at the next one. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Have a good one.
You've been listening to What the Health with Dr. Dan and Angela Toro, brought to you by Turo Family Chiropractic. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.whatthehealth.world.